private road ordinance, no action required. That's gonna be a private road or two-track trail. We still have to be able to make it, it still has to be such that if there's a dwelling on it, a house or any kind of structure, it still has to be able to be got to by fire department. That's one of the areas I have concern about. Well, another area is the MMR report. I take it that the board gets a monthly report on their runs, but I remember last month there was a statement made in regards to their response and their response timing and how they're responding to calls. My concern is that a fire ant, when the initial call tone goes off to the time to reach scene should be recorded, because that is very important, and that was what the big issue when we had the strictly volunteer ambulance going. So that was another area. I guess the final thing I've got is I'm not happy with this board at all. Mainly because, what time is it? 11:30. Congratulations. That's the longest I've seen this board go, and there's been a lot of times that there's been procrastination in this meeting going on tonight. There's been far too much argument and discussion and fighting between board members. I'm very disillusioned with this board, and I hope you get your act together.
Anyone else this evening?
Kim Angus, 1214 Sarah Drive, Traverse City. I needed to clarify a couple things regarding the standalone building ordinance. And, you know, I accept the decision of the board here, but there were some fairly large missing components that kind of highlighted to me where part of our process is really breaking down, and you need to be aware of that going forward. The first item is, you sounded like you were applying Lindsay's report objecting to this ordinance that was written for another version of this ordinance. The one that was presented to you this evening was fully supported by Lindsay. Before our PC, due to her leaving the position, she did not put that in writing. She's not here anymore. But what was put before you was supported by our zoning administrator. Number two, I fear that what you're trying to avoid is exactly the situation you have created. Right now we have an open permit for a 4,000 square foot pole barn going in a residential district with a 700 foot apartment. The property owner does not want an apartment. However, he is going to have a fully functional accessory dwelling unit that he was forced by this township to put in, because it's the only way he can put his barn in, and he's not ready to build a house. So the only way he can have the barn is by putting in the apartment, and then he'll have to remove the kitchen so that he can put in his house, so that it's not an accessory dwelling unit. It just has a living room, bathroom, bedroom, and is walled off with all residential codes adhered to. You're kind of setting up the situation that this board is saying they're trying to avoid, and you're making it far more likely that it will exist in our township. Third, and perhaps the biggest problem, Della, you made a comment that the Planning Commission completely ignored Lindsay's recommendations and her concerns in her report.
I don't think I said the word completely. I could be wrong.
But you are only partially right. That report was never provided to the Planning Commission. I had never seen it until I read through tonight's board packet.
Really?
This is a major failure. When we have a zoning administrator's report going through on article, she had never, when that was written, she had not worked with the planning commission on this ordinance. She came in, we had already forwarded it to the board, she made her comment to you. I had never seen that report. So some of those things we could have adjusted or amended. We did go through all those points with her and she was fine with where we ended up. But it is a real problem when this board is looking at reports and analysis that have been provided to you that never make it to us. Because you can't hold us accountable for ignoring a report that we never knew existed.
That's fair.
And that was a major problem. Some of those things aren't that big a deal to adjust. Some of those things were discussed in extensively. Options, various options, like requiring a location for a house along with the parcel, those type of things. So in our process going forward, that was a really extreme failure in this process. And the other is on an entirely different note. I have to mirror what Tim said. I would really encourage this board, you set a personal restriction for this board that you would bring every general ordinance to a public hearing, even though it's not required. This board really needs to establish a policy that no business will be conducted after 10:30. It's unprofessional, it's inappropriate, and it's just downright ludicrous. It is 11:40 at night. No business can function like this. And this may be government and not business. It's just inappropriate. That's the nicest word I can find for it. Thank you. Too tired.
And the VCR battery's not last that long either.
And this on an AD&D man.
Good evening, Heidi Malmy, 8371 Little Lane, Williamsburg, Michigan. 6 Ps, what that stands for? I suggest you Google it sometime. It's piss poor planning predicts poor performance. I sit in these meetings, and 80% of what you discuss could be done over phone calls, emails, and you should just come here and give your opinion and vote. There's no reason this meeting has to go this long. We the people entrust you, the clerk, to follow policy and process and best practices. Cheryl, by not putting the minutes in verbatim, they're biting you in your own fanny. Have a nice evening.
They are. That's why she thinks it's fun.
It's almost midnight. No one's on their best behavior.
Doesn't matter. I don't have to be. I'm a private citizen.
Not fantasy.
You next.
Anyone